Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another awesome episode of Lifeonaire Show podcast. I'm Jason Wojo, your host. We got Polish Peter, your co-host. The Lifeonaire Show is all about helping you build the life you want and a business to support that. And along those lines, dude, we have a super important topic today. So guys, this is one you're going to want to listen to in its entirety. And that is, how do you know when to pivot and when to push? When should you stay with something and when should you abort and jump ship and try something different? Because this is one of the things that entrepreneurs, dude, you know this, I know this, we struggle with, because, you know, as entrepreneurs, we're constantly drawn to the new thing. We see an opportunity over here. Hey, this thing's harder than we thought it should be. Maybe, like, you know, God's closing a door on me, or like all these ideas start swirling around in our minds, and we can oftentimes shoot ourselves in the foot if we're not careful on how we approach this issue.
Yeah, so I think it's a really important topic, especially like this episode. This is a take 451 of an intro that you were trying to start. So at what point do you pivot and just stop doing this, right? No, but listen, in all seriousness, if anybody on this particular podcast, or you're listening to this podcast, had this question like, should I quit? You know, at what point do I quit? I feel like I'm maybe moving forward and nothing is happening, or am I going the right direction? And those kinds of questions pop up for you, then I would listen to this episode, because I've had this question. And one of the things that a long time ago, I made a kind of an agreement, I think it was like this for me my whole entire life, is this: I don't quit easily. And what I mean by that is, like, I have this weird analogy. It may not work for some people, but like, think about it this way. If you're standing in front of drywall and you're banging your head against the wall, something's going to give. Either you're going to stop banging it or the drywall is going to break. And I think sometimes in life, it's like, you know, when you ask yourself the question, when do I quit? Am I supposed to quit now or move or pivot? I think it's really important to clarify in those moments, how do you make that choice, the decision? And I think, you know, one of the biggest ones, and me and you have been talking about this on the particular podcast, is this: if you don't have a vision for your life, and then underneath that, the vision for your business, that's when you are going to be easily distracted and you're going to be quitting. Because think about it this way: if you have this direction, have this vision that you're going towards, and you know that this is the vision that I decided, or whatever it might be for me, that I want to hit that vision, then guess what? That tells you to not quit, right? You might pivot a little bit because, you know, you're up against the wall, but you are not going to quit. So I think that vision is so important to have in your life, so you know which direction you're going to.
Yeah, dude, it definitely has to start with vision, 1,000%, because that's really going to dictate, like, is this part of, as a comprehensive, larger perspective, like, does this fit into what I want my life to look like? Because business is part of life. My belief, and you don't have to share this, is that, you know, they should be congruent. Your life and your business should complement each other, not compete with each other. And so you got to pick something that you're actually passionate about. And I will say this, like, you know, you will have different people talk differently about this, but in my perspective, my thought is that you should feel some sort of resonance or some sort of relation with the product or service that you sell, because it's been a problem that you had in the past and maybe you solved it. So this is where, for instance, maybe a personal trainer used to be overweight, or someone who has a landscaping business. Maybe they absolutely love the creativity that goes along with it, and they've had problems and they like making things beautiful. And like, so there's something that draws you to it. So that's the very, very foundational part of that, right? So that's the first thing. My suggestion would not be to pursue something solely for the financial reward, because if you hate what you're doing in that business and you despise every minute you spend in it, you're just not going to have the level of satisfaction and fulfillment, and quite frankly, I believe success, as somebody who has those other things that you're lacking.
Can you give him the example? Because you use this example a lot about you being in the lab, because I think that's a good example to give him, you know, an analogy, basically.
So if you guys who don't know, like, I'm way overeducated for my intelligence, and I have 4 degrees.
And it doesn't help anyway. I mean, yeah, you might be overeducated, but
it doesn't help.
No.
So it's a bunch of letters. But long story short is, my last degree, I was getting my PhD, and I'm working in the lab, and I would go into the lab and I would do my experiments, and I'd get my work done, and I would, do all the things I had to do. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at the clock. I'm trying to get out of there as soon as I can once my experiments are done. And I'm going home and not thinking about science until the next day when I have to be in the lab. Someone else, though, and I was in lab with these types of people. They would be in there before me in the morning. They would stay later than me at night. And that's what they ate, lived, breathed, and slept. They loved it. They went home and thought about theories of hypotheses of how, molecular factors work together and how this like protein could affect that neurotransmitter and all kinds of stuff. And they loved it. And listen, if that person and I were to compete out in the real world for jobs, I would get crushed because it isn't my passion. And by the way, you have to identify for yourself what is your passion. Now, I say this with a little bit of a caveat, an exception, which is like at some level, a lot of businesses, once you are in business for a while, they start to have some of the same components, same challenges. You got to evolve as a leader. You got to do certain things. But the sole fundamental foundational, parts of the business, you need to enjoy. You need to feel something, in my opinion, to get the most out of that and to increase your chances of success.
Yeah, so I think that's important that caveat to actually emphasize it, because here's the thing. I think there's a fallacy with a lot of people that are thinking that if this is truly what I'm supposed to be doing, my passion or whatever you want to call it, right? That vision I'm going after, then I should pretty much love everything about that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's true. There will be certain aspects that you're not going to like. That's the stuff that you delegate to somebody else, right? But there is no such a thing that I'm going to love everything about that. So if I don't love everything about that, I need to quit that and I need to move something else. Because I think that's one of the reasons why people have the shiny object syndrome, because they look for this perfect kind of a thing that they're going to be doing in life. And the minute something comes up with them, and by the way, most of the time, the thing that comes up, that the wall that they come up, against is because they have not become the person that's going to tackle that, or there's a fear behind it, or whatever it might be, and they're making an excuse for themselves. Okay, that's not my thing. I need to pivot.
Yeah. So let me pause here for a second, dude.
There.
You said something important that I want to. So let's say, now you got to be careful here, because let's say that you are a personal trainer. Your time is very limited. Your income is very limited by the number of clients you can have. So let's say you decide like, hey, I'm gonna start hiring personal trainers under my company logo, under my brand. And then you discover like, well, gosh, like I kind of like being in the field with the clients and I don't really like running a business. And now I have to keep I have to keep books, and wait, what? I have to make payroll, and like all of these parts of the business start to creep in. And so you've got to realize that if you are going to build a business, some of these parts are inevitable. They are just, it just goes with the territory. Now, I'm not saying you have to do them, by the way, please don't misunderstand me there, but just understand, like, even if these things aren't appealing to you, the sole function of the business is still to help people, and you're scaling that to a larger capacity so you can help more people make the changes they want. In this case, we're talking about fitness, but the same principles apply. It doesn't matter what it is. So it's really important, number one. Number two is like, if you're wondering to really push or pivot, like let's do a couple things. So number one, we agree that it has to do with your vision. Make sure it fits your vision. Number two, I would say, is you really kind of got to give some consideration to the reality. And this is, listen, this is as close to a fact as I can give you. Everything appears easier and quicker and better, like the grass is greener on the other side, right? Kind of thing.
Before you get started. Yep.
Let me tell you, every business, there is no magic business. All of them, it's going to be harder than you think it is. It's going to be slower than you think it is. There's going to be more ups and downs, bumps and bruises than you think there are going to be. And so there is no, perfect fit. And if there were, then everybody would be doing it. And then you'd have a ton of competition and nobody is going to win anyway. Alex Hormozi has a great, and I don't know if he came up with it. He has this great saying. He's like, you go from uninformed optimism, meaning you don't know what you don't know, and you think wow, that looks so much easier. Look, they're making all this money. To informed pessimism, and what that means is that you start to learn how hard it's actually going to be, what's actually involved, and then you decide maybe this isn't the right vehicle for me, and so you decide to go back to uninformed optimism with another business instead, and the cycle repeats itself. And this is why people continue to cycle through businesses without making any tangible progress. And this is the thing we got to avoid. And really just, if you go into it expecting it to be hard, then just take that off the table. Then now we can compare apples to apples when it comes to businesses.
Yeah, and that stage that you just mentioned, that second stage, that's when most people quit. So you gotta know, like, you need to get through that stage, to kind of get to the other side. I think it's important. So what happens in that particular stage, I think, because this is another reason why people quit, I think, too early, or they pivot or whatever, and it's fear. If you notice, like, think about it this way: whenever you've been thinking about something in life, or you've done something in life, there is going to be at some point fear that's going to come up. If the fear is making that decision for you, the choice for you, consider that that might not be the reason for me to quit. Because the fear is just this, trying to keep you in this comfort, because you have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to do something you've never done, or whatever it might be, to be able to get to the next level. So if there's a fear in there, that might not be the reason for you to quit at that particular moment.
So how would fear show up for somebody who's thinking of quitting, Peter?
Well, the fear shows up in a bunch of different ways. For instance, one is like, well, I'm just not good enough in this. Like, I'm not good at this. And I mean, I shouldn't, that's not me, kind of a thing. So, but the solution is like, well, think about it. When you started, how much did you know about that, where you're at this particular moment, right? You probably learned so much already that you didn't know when you first started. So use that to your advantage to learn to the next level, right? Like, I've had a conversation with one of my students where he does calls out for clients, right? And he dials out on his phone probably 1,000 different dials, every single day. And he comes back to me because he goes, okay, so I've had so many dials. Now my next thing is I have a hard time getting them past 2 minutes to stay on the phone. So he could have quit a long time ago. But I've said, well, let's listen. What is the thing that we need to address here? So getting them past 2 minutes. So how do we have the conversation? So he's learning something new, and we're incorporating. Now he's past 2 minutes. So notice, because the fear will show up because he asked me, like, maybe this isn't the business I should be in. You know what I mean? Because now all of a sudden starts showing up. So that's one thing that fear shows up. Did you have something?
Yeah, dude. And I don't want to challenge you on this, but I would say, arguably for me, when I think of the reason people change their businesses, it's either boredom or kind of like greed and short term, it's boredom.
So that's different, yeah. So
yeah,
this was
boredom
fear,
of what
is a
they're
different
doing.
Conversation, yeah.
Or it's like the kind of like the short term satisfaction, like they think this is easier, and so they try to, it's the allure of the perfect business, like, so it's like just being impetuous.
Yeah, like, you make $1 million in 30 days.
Yeah, they want the easy, like,
pajamas kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Delayed gratification is not a thing. It's like the instant gratification.
Yeah.
So
So instant gratification is another reason people quit. Yeah.
So here's the recommendation. Like, and so hopefully you're hearing some solutions here for yourself. Like, is it fear? Is it, I'm afraid? And listen, I have seen people self-sabotage a business because, like Peter said, they didn't believe they were worthy of success, and they were getting close to success, and they were going to break through that plateau, and they didn't feel like they were worthy for whatever reason, and they sabotage the business. They go start another business. They get to that same level in the next business, same thing happens. And so, is fear playing up for you? Is it boredom? Is it the shiny object syndrome, the allure of that easy, quick win that is seducing you? And be honest with yourself, like, because this is something I think as entrepreneurs we are gifted with the blessing of being able to spot opportunities. And there's nothing wrong with opportunities, but you've got to recognize, like, what is a distraction and what is gonna be something to derail your efforts versus really be a tangible, better move for you. So how do you actually decide whether to push or pivot? You got something?
Well, yeah, I got one more that I think that is a big reason why people quit. And it's this. I think it's very important to be careful of the people that we listen to on this particular journey. I'll give you an example. So way back in the day when I was struggling, this was, like probably 2012, 2013, I was struggling big time, financially, everything, mentally, whatever. And my business was struggling. I was like literally letting it go. And someone that I know in my life has said, listen, I work for this big company. I'll get you a job there. No worries. And for whatever reason, something within me said to say no. And I will tell you this, and he had the best intention for me, obviously. He's not trying to derail me. He's trying to help me, trying to, help me in my life. But if I said yes to that, I would not be doing what I'm doing today, because I will be in a completely different direction in my life, kind of a thing. So what I mean by that, because there is different types of people that you want to listen to. Do you want to listen to people who are naysayers? Probably not. Do you want to listen to people to have the best intention, but they are not clear or aware of the direction that you're going, or they've gone to that. Like, for instance, if you want to start a personal trainer business, I will not be listening to someone who is overweight, never been to the gym, about, you going the wrong direction. I'll be listening to a personal trainer who's been successful. So I think it's really important, because I think a lot of the conversations that we have in our lives, forget the conversation in your own head, because we have ones, but the people that are talk to us, we have to be careful who we listen to in order for us to not quit, pivot, and things like that. Any comments on that one before we go to the how to solve this?
No, man, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that really is helps kind of, sum up like a really valid approach to this. Still, the thing I think we haven't quite discussed though has been like, how do you objectively, decide are there metrics, are there ways to measure whether or not you should push or pivot? And one of the things I would suggest, here's a couple ideas for you. Number one, and of course, again, I'm going to say vision number one, absolutely number one. But number two, decide up front. The worst time to decide whether you want to push or pivot is when you're in the moment and when you're feeling emotional. You had a bad month, you had a couple bad months, so you're on a down slope or something with sales. That's not it. You want to decide this in advance. And so that's number one. So you decide up front what this is going to look like. And so for me, I think you got to give it a shot to either make it work if it's a new business, or give it a fair shot to see if it is something that is sustainable by giving it enough time to continue. In other words, like, let's say, hey, I'm going to give this business, 24, 36 months. I'm going to give it some period of time to see if this, and this is going to be a hard deadline for me. Like, so for instance, like I'm going to set a deadline for myself that by this date, I'm going to decide, and here's the metrics I'm going to use to close shop and go somewhere else, or double down on this. The other part of that though is I think, people don't give it, aside from the time component, people don't give it enough reps. They don't give it enough volume. They don't give it enough chances to work. Like, so you just mentioned, for instance, the guy's making a ton of phone calls, right? And he's like, I can't get past 2 minutes. Well, hey, I'm gonna commit to trying. I'm gonna have 100 or 1,000 reps at this, of talking to somebody, of creating Facebook ads, of whatever it is. Like, you have to give it enough time to bake. And I've shared this in the podcast before, but this has been one of my secret weapons to success, and whatever level of success I've had. I'm not certainly like the top of the mountain kind of guy, but like I've had my share. And so it took me 82 or 84. I gotta look back. It was 82 or 84. I think it was 82 offers to get my first real estate deal. If I would have given up, I never, ever, ever would have been able to leave my job and do all the things I was doing. That was my first business. It took me 104 barrel roll attempts before I landed one when I was doing wakeboarding, like, back when I was younger. It took me, over 10 years of competing in bodybuilding before I won my first show. Like, it just takes time. And so just like I said before, like, it's gonna be harder and slower than you think it's gonna be. Like, that rule applies to almost everything. And so you have to give it the commitment it deserves before you can really check the boxes. It's like, and I'll use another example, man. Like, so one of your buddies is like, struggling with his wife or his girlfriend. He's like, I'm just gonna get another one. Yeah, and you're gonna repeat the same exact problems that you have now, because you haven't.
Common denominator. Yep.
Yes, you haven't fixed the issue. It is gonna be harder, and it is gonna be more work than you think. And just double down on that. And then, if you have truly given it the other factor here when it comes to business in particular, yes, you want to make sure, I think, demand is there. And that's really, really important, because like, if you're selling newspapers and that's your idea, you're in a shrinking market, right? And so you got to look at that, right, obviously. But if there's other people doing this business, that means there is demand. If these people can be easily found and located, and that's valuable. Dude, I had a coaching call a couple days ago with a woman. She's starting a dehydrated food business overseas, and they don't have anything like this in her country. And she's kind of like buying all this expensive camera gear, and she's trying to get some traction with her social media following and doing all this. And I said, listen, like, that's great, but the very first thing you need to do is get this in somebody's hands to see if they even like it. Like give it away. Forget about trying to sell it for first step. Give it away. Collect feedback. Then you go to a local, farmer's market and try to sell it before you do any of this other stuff. Like, because you got to see, number one, does this work?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's and here's the thing, man. One other thing that I would say as far as that, knowing the solution-based kind of thing. I think people deep down, they know whether or not they're quitting too soon. I think you just know. And when you know that, when you like whatever the fear might be and things like that, whatever that nudges, right? I talk about a lot this to my students and on videos, and listen to the nudge. I think every single one of us has this nudge within you. And I think it's a really good guidance system to listen to the nudge to see like, okay, am I quitting too early? If that's the case, you got to keep moving forward. And the thing is, most people, when they talk about, when they're in that situation, right? What happens is they start taking action that makes them feel like they're moving forward, but they're not really moving forward, if that makes any sense. Like in this particular scenario with this lady, she might be at that particular moment, feel like, okay, I'm not quitting, but I'm going to go and, buy this equipment, and I got to buy this microphone, then I got to set up my studio, then I got to do this. So she feels like she's moving forward, but she's not doing what? The selling thing or actually putting somebody's hands. If you put in, so the actions, deep down inside what actions you need to take, and you actually going out there and selling, putting in somebody's hands, and you do 1, 5, 10, and it's not happening, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, you got to do the real work. It's not the fake work, And by the way, I'm saying this like I'm looking at a magnet right now, a refrigerator magnet that I created when my very first business. Created these fancy colors, the website. I got my vanity phone number, like all this stuff. And guess what? I wasn't doing making offers.
What's the vending number?
Hold on, I'll tell you, man. Stay right here.
So while he's going up there and he's getting this thing, because I'm curious. So think about it this way. Fear plays a big role. Listening to the people. So what do you got?
All right. So I don't know if you can see this. This is the refrigerator magnet.
It's blurry.
It is blurry.
Okay,
we buy houses for cash, right? And sell your house now. 1-888-966-HHRE, which is Helping Hand Real Estate. And so but this is where I spend time on, guys. I was not running a business. I was pretending to be a business owner. And this slowed me down significantly. And the very first thing that you mentioned is the reason why, man. I was afraid to do the real stuff. Like this stuff felt good. It was comfortable. It was easy. I felt like I'm accomplishing something, but I wasn't. I was fooling myself. So we can't do that, man.
Well, hopefully this was helpful for you guys listening to this particular podcast. So whatever you got going on right now, and by the way, what we talked about doesn't just apply to business, applies to life, relationships, everything. So if you just take that, use it and see how it works out for you.
Let me say one last thing, guys.
No.
So if you do pivot, realize that you are going to run into the same problems in that new business, and you're not going to escape them. And so you will grow, you will expand and evolve to the business owner that can get to X level, and then you will hit that same exact plateau in the next business. And so it's just a matter of choosing the vehicle you want that most align with your vision and that really can give you the life you want and support that life. And by the way, if you are a new listener, Lifeonaire has 2 events to help you with this. We have the Get a Life Getaway, which is a 3-day event where we dive in for 3 full days to help you create the exact concrete vision for the life you want to live. We go through how much money you need to make to live your vision. We talk about your ideal calendar. What are you going to do on a random Tuesday? We talk about every part of your life. And then the second event is our Business Builder Workshop, where we take people through hand in hand, I should say, how to create a business that does not require you to do all the work, that can do the things we're talking about, that can be successful without it being built on your back, so that it can give you the life and the income that you're looking for. And by the way, I should mention both of these events are 100% guaranteed, money back guarantee, where you can come to the full training, not the first half of the first day, not the first day by itself, like the full 3 days. And if it's not worth every penny that you pay to be there, you can get every single penny back. Now, I will tell you, not a single person has asked for their money back. We've been doing these events since 2008. And so if there's a stronger testimony to the power of these events, I'm not aware of one.
And I'll double up that guarantee. And that is, if you don't like it, you can get your money back, like he said. And the second thing, you can go up and punch Wojo in the face. I give you that permission to do that.
Yeah, right. All right, guys. Hope this has been a great one for you. Hope you do something with it. And we will see you next week. Take care, everyone.